The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide. The demon of the CCP must also not be allowed to hide. Welcome back to War Room Pandemic, episode 156. It is May the 2nd, the year of our Lord 2020, a glorious sunny day here on Capitol Hill. I'm Raheem Kassam, sitting in for Stephen K. Bannon on special assignment. Jack, Maxey, Jason Miller join me here in the War Room. Producer Dan making the special appearance as producer Vish, also on special assignment. Greg Manns is in the war room. I want to thank all of our broadcast partners, the John Fredericks Radio Network, America's Voice Dish Channel 219, FM 99.1 and 103.9 in Chicago, Nexus.org, and blown through the Chinese firewalls by G News, translated into Mandarin, and GTV. Ladies and gentlemen, we're always grateful for your thoughts, your comments. Hashtag War Room Pandemic is where you can reach us with anything you think we're missing, any questions you have for us, for our guests, and we are honored, as always, to have one of our favorite guests on the show. Curtis Ellis is Policy Director with America First Policies. And before we bring Curtis in, I just want to recap on something from Friday morning. Gentlemen, we had Joe Biden appearing from the basement with Mika Brzezinski and the rest of the Morning Joe crew on Friday morning to address these Tara Reade allegations, these sexual allegations against the would-be Democratic presidential nominee. And while Joe Biden's answers at the beginning of that interview seemed stable, seemed steady, seemed understandable, were almost resonating with a lot of people who usually don't take Joe Biden at his word, something else came out of that interview that was very, very interesting, fascinating even. And we mentioned it yesterday morning on the show. We talked about how Joe Biden, when he was asked as to whether or not the University of Delaware papers, a lot of the archives when Joe Biden was in the Senate, stored there at the University of Delaware, when he was asked about whether or not we could do a name search for Tara Reade in those papers, just in case something was filed there, maybe by accident, maybe on purpose, maybe who knows why something would have gotten there and not been stored here in the National Archives, I think is where the rest of the thing goes. He said no, effectively, that they aren't going to open those up, that he's not going to allow for those papers to be searched. And why? What was his reason for that? Well, Joe Biden said because there are position papers, interviews that he's done with foreign press, meetings he's had with foreign leaders, that if they were made public, they could be, quote, taken out of context. It's the first time in my lifetime that I remember a would-be candidate for one of the most highest and prestigious offices in the entire world, if not the highest prestigious office in the world, saying you can't scrutinize my activities as a public servant during a public campaign because they might be taken out of context. I've simply never heard anything quite like that. And for the mainstream media who were up in arms about President Trump's tax returns as a private individual and about allegations that have been leveled against President Trump only when he wanted to run as the Republican nominee for president. Well, where are you now? Where are the remonstrations? Where are the demonstrations? Where is the hashtag #MeToo crowd coalescing on Capitol Hill and saying we don't believe this guy? Or at the very least, we give Tara Reade, and by the way, the 7 other people who have come forward over the last couple of years to accuse Joe Biden of something inappropriate or the other, and we'll get to all of that as well. Where are you guys now? And credit to the people at The Intercept, and for the very few people on the political left who have dared to step out of line with this. I know some people, like Chris Hayes, have been taking it from their colleagues in the establishment left for daring to believe Tara Reade, for daring to say that actually we might want to consider this, that daring to say that actually the papers must be open, we must be allowed to investigate and scrutinize all of this. But for the rest of you, shame on you. Gentlemen.
Yes, and just before we go to Curtis Ellis, I want to tee this up. Our America's Voice allies, don't go and play the ad that you have teed up. It's actually, I'm going to play the one that they just released yesterday. We played China Prosperity, the ad that they're running in Michigan. Here's the one, Stop China, that America's First, the Super PAC, is running in Wisconsin.
Communist China hid their outbreak from the world, silenced their doctors, shut down investigations, and blamed America.
This is no time for Donald Trump's record of hysteria, xenophobia, labeling COVID-19 a foreign virus.
The Biden plan will protect China.
Banning all travel will not stop it.
Joe Biden has defended China for 4 decades.
What a beautiful history we wrote together.
To stop China, you have to stop Joe Biden.
Great spot. And then here is the ad travel ban that is running in Pennsylvania.
Joe Biden on China.
It is in our self-interest that China continue to prosper.
Biden voted for job-killing trade deals with China and failed to support the China travel ban to stop coronavirus.
Banning all travel will not stop it.
China's killing our jobs and now killing our people.
They're not bad folks.
After 47 years in Washington, Joe Biden just doesn't make sense.
And those are the two ads America's First Super PAC is out with. Now joining us by Skype, our man Curtis Ellis, Senior Policy Advisor for America's First. Curtis, how are you?
Even better after hearing those ads. That pumps me up.
Curtis, they're not bad folks. What do you say to that?
Well, this is what Joe Biden's been saying for 40 years. Remember, it was back in 1980 that he cast his first vote to give China's communist regime most favored nation status. He thought China should be treated the same way we treat Great Britain, the Netherlands, and Italy. Then 20 years later, he made that famous statement that I can't imagine China will ever be a competitor for our manufacturing. They have an economy the size of the Netherlands. He's been wrong all along. They're not bad folks. He's just bought into this whole the whole idea that really ran rampant in Washington, which is the win-win. It's a win-win for all of us. It's in our interest for China to prosper. It's a win-win, and a win-win in China's eyes, in Beijing's eyes, is they win twice.
So, Curtis, walk us through why is America First out now with these 3 new ads in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania? Obviously, these things are pretty hard hitting, all factual. I'll get to the details of what's going on, but why now, and what's the strategy here?
All of the polling, our internal polling and public polling you've seen, the Harris poll, the Pew Research poll after poll shows that China, basically, to put it in shorthand, China is the only issue in this campaign. China, everybody, the American people get that China caused this virus and shut down our way of life, not anybody else. The blame lies squarely in Beijing and the Forbidden City. 78% of Americans want to bring manufacturing back to America, get out of China. An equally high number understand that it's in our interest to decouple from China one way or another, fast or slow. We've got to start those divorce proceedings sooner rather than later. And Joe Biden is wrong and has been wrong on this issue all along, right up to, come on, folks, they're not bad folks. And so we are now reinforcing what people understand. And people, particularly in places like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, that China has been destructive to our way of life for decades. And Jason, you were there in 2016. You know that this was the message and the issue that carried Donald J. Trump over the blue wall and got him into the White House. He was the first person to talk about this in decades, and actually the first person running for office in my lifetime, since Pat Buchanan in 1992, that came out and said, we've got to get out of China and bring those jobs back. And Joe Biden is the exemplar of the bipartisan Washington consensus that it's in our interest for China to prosper and everything's going to be okay. So tag him with that, and he doesn't stand a chance. My only fear is that he's going to end up like, remember when President Trump afterwards was saying, after Hiawatha, after Pocahontas, that maybe I took her out too early. We should have kept her in the game longer.
Hey, Curtis, let me jump in here. Hey, I want to go right to yesterday's Joe Biden interview with Mika Brzezinski and play a brief clip and then get you to react to it.
The first is about your University of Delaware records. Do you agree with the reporting that those records were supposed to be revealed to the public and then they were resealed for a longer period of time until after you leave, quote, public life? And if you agree with that, if that's what happened, why did that happen?
Because, look, the fact is that there's a lot of things of speeches I've made, positions I've taken, interviews that I did overseas with people, all of those things relating to my job. And the idea that they would all be made public in the fact while I was running for public office, they could be really taken out of context. Their papers are position papers. They are documents that existed that when for example, when I met with Putin or when I met with whomever, and all of that to be fodder in a campaign at this time, I don't know of anybody who's done anything like that.
Curtis, tie this together for us. Bring it back. We've heard Joe Biden yesterday say what he's really afraid of in those papers. Tie that together with the 47 years that he's been in Washington.
Exactly. He's afraid that people are going to see that he's been wrong on every issue in the 47 years he's been in Washington. He's not concerned so much about his interviews with Putin. We want to know about his interviews with the Chinese Communist Party leadership, because he was the point man on this for a long, long time. And you go back to, as I said, 1980, 2000. He's been wrong on China all along in the Obama administration. He was the point man on the pivot to Asia. He flew Air Force Two over there with his son Hunter, who then picked up $1.5 billion for his private hedge fund. There is a lot of stuff in there that he doesn't want us to see. And as I said before, China is the only issue in this campaign. China is the touchstone. It's the signifier for your job has gone away. It's a signifier for we are at the mercy of the Chinese Communist Party for our protective gear. It's a signifier for the fact that the American way of life has been shut down. And Joe Biden has been wrong on this all along. He's trying to hide that. And as Raheem was saying, it's very peculiar that we can't see the records of a man we've been paying for 47 years. The taxpayers have been paying this guy.
And Curtis, to this point, let me play a 15-second video.
China. I've spent a lot of time. Apparently, I was told by the folks at state, I've spent more time in private meetings with Xi Jinping than any world leader. I have 25 hours of private dinners with him, just he and I, and one interpreter.
And of course, that one interpreter is not someone from the U.S. We only have about a minute left, Curtis. What do you think Joe Biden and Xi Jinping were talking about for 25 hours?
They were talking about how it's in America's interest for China to prosper. He's probably talking about the old Cold War strategy of détente, that our systems are going to converge. And China is going to be an upstanding member of the global trading system. And you can give us your industries. You can give us your technology. And we're going to cooperate and collaborate. There was a word, the word used to be called appeasement. Now it's called collaboration and cooperation. And Joe Biden and Xi Jinping were talking about how America and China are going to cooperate and collaborate in this great new world order where everybody gets together, and it's just going to be wonderful. Because that was the prevailing wisdom in Washington, and Joe Biden swallowed it hook, line, and sinker because he hasn't had an original thought in his head, and any original thought he did have was wrong.
Curtis Ellis, we're so grateful for you joining us here this morning on War Room Pandemic. Curtis Ellis, America First Policy Director. Always grateful to have him on. More War Room Pandemic in just a moment.
Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. War Room Pandemic, episode 156. Saturday, May the 2nd, 2020. Raheem Kassam here, sitting in for Stephen K. Bannon, who'll be back with us early on next week. Not in quarantine, on special assignment, don't worry. I was going to say Stephen K. Bannon's in great health. He's in as good as there is. Jason Miller, Jack Maxey joining us here in the War Room. We were really honored to be joined by Curtis Ellis of the America First Policies. Is it the C4, Jason?
So Curtis,
Jason unawares
yeah,
here,
he is. No. Curtis is. He does both on the policy side, but then also on the super PAC side. So he's the policy advisor, and obviously they're one's a C4, one's a super PAC. The ads were coming from the super PAC, but Curtis is the main policy advisor for both. But having worked with Curtis on the campaign, as he said, number one, Curtis can knock out like an op-ed in like 20 minutes. It'd be like 650 words, magically done.
No typos.
No typos. We'll be sitting there on the campaign and like, man, I could really use an op-ed on something. And Curtis is like, hold on, I'll be back in like 20 minutes. And like, here, I'm like, did you like already have that done? He's like, no, I just sat down and started writing. So great ally to have on the team. But look, he's someone who really gets it. This is a reason why Steve always has him on to talk through China and the different things that he's working on. And look, China is going to be the issue in 2020. This is where all comes together. This is where the decades of bad U.S. policy, the coronavirus, the American recovery, what the retribution is going to be, how they're going to be, China's going to be held accountable. Look, Joe Biden has fundamentally, he has the Hillary Clinton problem. Yes. And that is the problem. I mean, Donald Trump, even though he's the incumbent, he is the change agent in this equation. Hillary Clinton is the bridge back to every bad thing that our elected officials from both parties have been doing for decades.
Let me ask you this question, because I think a lot of people have been saying, hey, go easy on Biden. We really need him to be the nominee. It's a dream nominee for us to have, to have as an opponent. I want crooked. Honestly, I want round two. So if you ask me why I want this thing to stick to Joe Biden, the answer is I want round two. Okay? There will be nothing more gratifying politically than Hillary Clinton losing again. Come on, right?
So you guys know, I mean, look,
a trifecta for her.
One of the things actually to this point, I was looking this morning, Rasmussen has new polling out saying that a Trump-Biden matchup fires up voter enthusiasm more than a Trump-crooked matchup, which I was just like, wait, what? And so when you talk about this, it's 60%.
Is that because nobody's enthusiastic about Hillary?
I think so. It says 60% of likely U.S. voters say a choice this November between Trump and Biden is one they're excited about. And then 34% say they don't like either of the candidates. However, just 41% are excited about a Trump versus a crooked matchup. So I think a lot of that is right. Look, Republicans 75% are more enthusiastic about a Trump Biden, and then it says here they don't have the split out for the Trump Hillary, but look, I would love to go up against crooked once again, and just to go and absolutely extinguish this. I mean, Steve brilliantly coined crooked in the bullpen. She's firing up the broomstick. She's ready to get back into this thing.
I couldn't believe that the predictive markets didn't move yesterday after that Biden interview, because I think he gave people, and it didn't exist before, a big gaping chasm in his armor that gives us cause to go to the University of Delaware. And I said this morning. I think I tweeted it this morning. I woke up with this thought in my mind. I suppose it's not a particularly hard one to come to, but I said if an old transcript of a singular Trump phone call with a foreign leader were at the University of Delaware, the media would have in chorus demanded its release. But Biden's entire Senate record's hidden there and not apparently worthy of such demands, Jack.
Well, one thing that's interesting, there was some news out yesterday that apparently Biden's staff had gone back through all those records in the previous 2 months. So they're saying that he might be punking us right now. If there was anything in there, it's not in there anymore.
Absolutely. Where do you want to take us on clips, Jason? Do we have this? We have this clip teed up from the campaign with the guys at America's Voice. Why don't we play that and see the latest coming out of the Trump campaign? I think it's a particularly interesting clip given the number of times we've been told, demanded of, believe all women. Let's roll the clip.
Welcome, Hillary. It's great to have you here.
I am thrilled to be part of your campaign, to not only endorse you, but to help highlight a lot of the issues that are at stake, A
former U.S. Senate employee has come forward alleging former Vice President Joe Biden sexually assaulted her.
His hands were on me and underneath my clothes.
You have a right to be believed. we're with you.
Do we value women? Do we believe women?
Women should be believed.
We believe women.
I'm very disappointed that there are those who continue to not believe women who come forward. It is not easy, but they should be believed.
She is putting herself out there, knowing that they're going to try and excoriate her. And she has the courage to come forward. She has nothing to gain. So what does she have to gain?
I stand with survivors.
The woman should be given the benefit of the doubt.
These white men, old, by the way, are not protecting women.
Show the kind of compassion and caring that we need from our president, and which Joe Biden has been exemplifying throughout his entire life.
Look, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Hillary for joining us in this conversation today.
Pretty hard-hitting stuff.
That is so good.
So good. You're going to be give credit to whoever put that together. Get yourself a pay raise. Speaking of pay raises, I'll take this in a slightly different direction on this as well. Kayleigh McEnany, new press secretary, was up at the podium yesterday at 2:00 in the afternoon yesterday for the first time. The first, proper press briefing, not task force briefing, but press briefing in about 400 odd days there at the White House, and did an absolutely stand up there with the press yesterday. She was calm and collected. She didn't dodge any questions. She knew exactly what she was talking about across the brief, and everything was very well presented. Tidy, neat, didn't go on, rambling like I do. Just hit the question, get to the next one. Hit the question, get to the next one. That was a very impressive display. What wasn't impressive, however, was the question, I think, from the White House press correspondent from the Associated Press, I think it was, who asked Kayleigh McEnany as a kind of aside in her question, do you promise never to lie to us? I mean, has that question been asked of any other press secretary in history? Do you promise not to lie to us as the first question you get up there and ask? I mean, what kind of framing is that? I mean, that's made for the television audience, right? That's made for the Twitter audience. It's not made to go in an AP story, right? That's not a question a journalist asked to build a news item around. It was, frankly, I don't know that AP reporter, but I checked, and apparently she follows me on Twitter. I don't follow her. Maybe I followed back last night. But I always take it, if somebody follows me and they're not on my side of the political aisle and they follow me, then at least they are trying to get other sources, trying to hear other voices, etc. So, I hope I don't lose her as a follower on the back of this. But I think it was shameful. I think it was snarky. It was petty. There was no rationale for it. And I think a better question would have been, you see all of this stuff that we just in the video that we just played up there. Those are that raises real questions. The real question isn't, hey, Kayleigh, you gonna lie to us?
I think with the look, I think that backfired because the headlines for almost all the papers today is a new press secretary pledges to tell the truth. And so basically it's a positive.
Does that imply that previous ones haven't?
Well, look, people are going to say that anyways.
Right.
But I'm saying specifically about Kayleigh and the path forward. Then clearly President Trump has a lot of confidence in her. I mean, they haven't done one of these briefings in over a year where the press secretary goes out there. I think it's a year and a month and 20 days if you want to get real specific. It shows President Trump has a lot of confidence in Kayleigh McEnany. And I tweeted out yesterday there are 6 things that I think she did very smartly. Number 1, get out there and tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be factual, got to be detailed. Number 2, don't speculate. This may have actually been the one of the most important things. It's you constantly in that spot or ask questions that you maybe only have 50 or 75% information on, or you think you know pretty much where things are going, but you're not 100% sure. And the inclination is to try to be smart, try to demonstrate value, but never speculate. Speculating always gets you in trouble.
Yep.
Number 3, and I'll tell you this from having to work for President Trump, you always got to give him the maximum flexibility. I'll say this directly. I learned to never speak in absolute terms. Always give, because here's the thing. Things can change from your last conversation with him. Facts can change for story. If you go down, nope, this is 100%, absolutely not, never. Well, you don't know if a negotiation or, something might change. Always give him the flexibility if things need to move. So never speak in absolute terms that box him in. Number 4, derive President Trump's positives even if the question doesn't ask for it. Kaylee did a really good job of that yesterday. Number 5, turn stupid questions back on the questioner. And she did that yesterday. Twice, where she turned in, she's like, you know the answer. You know the answer. You know
right.
but you don't want to admit it.
Was it Jonathan Cole who had to answer back? Well, it's not my job to speculate.
Yes,
but you're speculating in the premise of the question.
And then the final thing: be likable and stay cool.
Yeah,
and Kaylee did that. Just absolutely.
That's the one I always struggle with.
She was cool as a cucumber. Very likable. And then she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go take care of my 6-month-old."
Yeah,
Mr. Maxey.
Unflappable. I thought the best part of that yesterday was when she says, "Well, what do you think?" And he goes, She says, "Your pause is the answer." All of it.
Oh, devastating! That was the casket music.
Right?
Casket meme.
You know.
That's right. All right, we got a break coming up, gentlemen. But when we come back, also going to talk about the new polling that's coming out at the moment, what it says. Also, I think you want to hit something on the Sean Spicer show that came out regarding General Flynn, the great American patriot who has been wronged by the crooked, rotten to the core institutions of the political establishment. This is War Room Pandemic. And we're expecting the flyover any second, so if you hear background noise, that's it.
Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. We're expecting the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds overhead here in Washington, D.C. Any moment now. So if you hear a rumbling, it's not Jason Miller's belly. It is the great pilots and the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds. So we'll keep you abreast of that here on the East Coast. They're doing a touring all across the United States at the moment as a mechanism by which to gee up the spirits of the nation. And I think it's a great thing. Like I don't know about Jack.
I do
skeptically.
too. No, it reminds me of this bumper sticker campaign back in San Diego in the 80s where all the libs were upset that the F-14s were doing touchdowns at Miramar. And everybody got bumper stickers on their cars that said F-14 sound of freedom.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to hear this afternoon, people. This country's not done by a long shot.
I love nothing more than an air show. Honestly, it's so much fun. And going down in South London, you have the old Biggin Hill airfield, which is right next to where Nigel Farage lives. And I've been down there for some of the flyovers and things like that. It's absolutely spectacular. So if you have the possibility to get out there and view it, make sure you pop your headphones in. Keep listening to the show, and take a look at some of the great pilots of this great nation. One of the new White House team, Alyssa Farah, the White House Director of Strategic Communications, literally tweets a second ago the flight path of the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds this morning here over Washington D.C. Maybe Alyssa's listening to the show. Okay, Jack and Jason, where do we want to go on this now? I'm kind of intrigued by the poll we're seeing at the moment, and there are times, ladies and gentlemen, you'll probably hear, there are times where I'm into the polling and there are times when I'm out of the polling. And this is one of the times where I'm out of the polling. Because at a time like this, and I say this, I'm not you probably notice, I'm not a numbers guy. I'm not a statistician by any stretch of the imagination. I'm one of these people who doesn't really believe in polling and focus testing as a broad mechanism by which you understand the country's best interest and the way the country is thinking. I think to do that, you actually have to get out there and talk to real people and talk to as many of them as possible. That's what I always do. It's how I wrote my first book, No Go Zones, by touring around Europe and actually talking to people who lived in some of these neighborhoods that were drastically changing, and how I've gotten to know America, I think, pretty well as well. But there are some times where you can look at the polling and you can look into the lines of the polling, the crosstabs, and you go, okay, I'm comfortable with the way that this question has been asked. I'm comfortable with their methodology. I'm comfortable with their sample size. I'm comfortable more so because maybe it's a tracking poll, and so you get to see changes in the numbers, as well as just top lines out of some of these polls, which can be all over the place. But Jason, you are actually more of a campaign guy than I am. You've been around this a lot longer, and I suspect you kind of probably feel the same about the science of polling as I do. it just seems to me that they're all over the place at the moment. All these pollsters are asking differently phrased questions about the handling of the pandemic, whether or not it's a head-to-head race, whether it's a non-named question, whether it's a policy-related question. Where are we, and is it worth paying any attention to this stuff right now?
Not particularly.
Okay,
Reuters,
next subject.
Reuters has a story out today, fearing political peril, Republicans edge away from Trump on pandemic response.
Right.
It's a Reuters story that the New York Times picked up, but they don't actually provide any data. Essentially, go through a bunch of soft R's. Basically, the same folks who went and became nervous Nellies after Access Hollywood. Those folks, whether it be your Carlos Curbellos of South Florida, your Fred Uptons of Southwestern Michigan, more the moderate Republicans who kind of did the pearl clutching. But look, there's new Gallup numbers that are out where President Trump is literally at his highest ever. He's at 49% approval versus 47% disapproval. This is nationally. This is for President Trump to be right side up on national polling. This is pretty good. But if you look at all the head-to-heads right now, pretty much everywhere shows President Trump leading Joe Biden somewhere between 3, 5, 7 points, depending on the survey that comes out. Here's why it doesn't really matter right now. It doesn't matter as far as this snapshot, but the broader takeaway, we're the pandemic. Right. And so Joe Biden is not even on the stage. No one's paying attention to him. So when people look at and they're doing a head-to-head poll, it's really about Trump versus Trump right now. And guess what? Most Americans are not psyched about the shelter in place. Most Americans are not psyched about having lost either their job or a significant chunk of their check or having someone else in their family. And so when you're asked a question, essentially implying, do you want a change in direction? Do you want something new? If you've lost your job, of course, you're going to be inclined to say, well, yeah, maybe the other guy. Elections are binary choices in the U.S. And until we get to that stage where Joe Biden comes out of his coffin and actually comes out of the basement, I know he's a little soft in the head, but he starts moving around and actually gets out there on the campaign trail, and we have this binary choice matchup, then it's all kind of a fruitless hand-wringing exercise to really go through. But what all of this really means, it's all about the recovery. That is the only thing that matters for the presidential race for this year.
Question, or maybe more of a statement, as is always the case with me. Joe Biden wears a mask on the campaign trail. Donald Trump does not, right?
Joe Biden wears a mask every day of his life. This nonsense, this watch all of his peers go, oh, that's not the Joe who has so much integrity that I know of. Let's just look back on some of the things that he shows he has no integrity. Guy gets kicked out of law school for a year for plagiarism, okay? To me, that tells something about someone's character. 1988, he's running for president, goes to the Iowa caucus and gives a speech that he lifts word from Neil Kinnock. And it's Neil Kinnock telling a particularly sort of poignant story of his upbringing in the Midlands of England, the son of a coal miner.
Yeah.
And Biden even claims that he's the son of a coal miner in the speech. It is so ridiculous. So stop with this talk about this guy's integrity and how much we can trust the things he says, because leave the politics aside. He's proven over and over again that he is willing to lie to get what he wants, a law degree or a nomination for the presidency.
Well, like a politician.
Well, perhaps, but law school was long beforehand. I went to schools that had an honor code, for crying out loud.
But by the way, Jason, when you say that President Trump should be added to Mount Rushmore, is that with a mask or is that without?
Oh, of course, no mask. Which,
no
by
mask,
the way, I do.
But tie on Mount Rushmore.
Yesterday, I tweeted out, and I've now changed my Twitter background to be Trump added to
Mount Trumpmore.
Mount Trumpmore. This thing was so great. So I tweeted this out yesterday. It was just very President Trump announced that he's going to be going to Mount Rushmore for July 3rd, which is great. And I made the comment that President Trump, I said, or retweeted the New York Post story, or as real Donald Trump will one day call it home for Mount Trumpmore. It's currently 2,700 retweets and 11,000 likes. I triggered the left so badly. Martina Navratilova, the arguably the greatest of all time, or one of the greatest of all time women's tennis players. She got super triggered and tweeted at me, "Delusional much, Jason? His home will have lines in the windows, as in bars." So here's kind of the funny thing. The fact that I ruined Martina Navratilovan's day.
Worse than Steffi Graf did.
That was harsh.
Low blow.
She was so good back in the day. I mean, Martina's she was the great one. But the fact that she got triggered enough to go and reply to me on Twitter and add Trump to Mount Rushmore, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's owning the libs. I mean, that's great.
Hey, can I just go back to the troubles of Joe Biden very quickly?
Just before we did, let me conclude on Mount Rushmore here real quick, because here's the thing, because I don't want to come back to it. But the thing is, who designed Mount Rushmore?
Wasn't it the French gentleman?
I think it was a Dane or a Swede, Gutzon Borglum, right? But he was a Klan member. And so the media is going to go, Trump wants to be on Klan-made monument.
Well, here's something, and I'm willing to put $100 on it. If he was a Klan member back in the 20s and the 30s, he was a Democrat.
Of course. But that'll never get mentioned. Okay, go back to Biden.
Here's something I just want to say. The New York Times editorial board today, and we should discuss this because this goes back to what I said yesterday. At some point, his peers, the media, are going to be more worried about their reputations as fair dealers than they're going to be worried about Joe Biden's reputation. So the editorial board says today that they want the DNC to completely investigate them. They mention the fact that they were very hard on Brett Kavanaugh when he went through, and fair is fair. I would add one more thing. I believe the last time they wanted the federal law enforcement to invest Brett Kavanaugh. Skip the DNC and let's go right to the FBI.
I'm glad you brought this editorial up because, this is one of those when you've lost the New York Times ed board. This is pretty stunning for the New York Times to come out and drop this. This definitely, to your point, Jack, goes to, or even going yesterday to the dealer himself, Eric Swalwell, when he had his appearance with Ed Henry on Fox News. A lot of these Democrats are staking their ground right now, thinking deep down inside that Joe Biden's not going to make the distance on this, and they want to be able to go back and say that they were sufficiently woke, that they were sufficiently pro-women, that they did not bend any of their ideological ideals just to try to help Joe Biden. And Joe Biden's struggling.
Is this the New York Times editorial board that endorsed Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar as joint ticket candidates?
Well, no, I think they're covering their backsides because of what they did to Kavanaugh. And so the hypocrisy would just be over the top if they don't follow through on this.
We have the police report, obviously, that's been filed. I'm not sure how neutral and arbiter the FBI would be in a scenario like this. And let's get on to the next topic in that regard. Jason, what's up with this Fox News op-ed, Katie McFarland, General Flynn, everything that's going on around that? Take us down.
Yeah, Katie McFarland being very vocal lately, has an opinion piece on foxnews.com. Katie McFarland, Michael Flynn didn't commit a crime. He was set up by deep state to cripple Trump presidency. It's a very good read, pretty hard-hitting, but I want to play this clip of KT on the Sean Spicer show on Newsmax last night, which, by the way, is on at 6 p.m., 9 p.m., and again at 6 a.m. every morning.
It's costing you thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend yourself for something that, frankly, you were never a target of.
No, I was not. Let's say it's high six figures, shall we say, and I think General Flynn is probably, $5 or $6 million in legal fees. Now, people don't understand that you're never reimbursed for.
But I want to stop it there because I want to play that again because KT went through it really quick. She just said that Michael Flynn has probably had to spend $5 or $6 million for this. I want to play this one more time.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is costing you thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend yourself for something that, frankly, you were never a target of.
No, I was not. Let's say it's high six figures, shall we say, and I think General Flynn is probably, $5 or $6 million in legal fees. Now, people don't understand that you're never reimbursed. Your insurance doesn't pay for it. Your former government agency doesn't. And that, because of that fact, the people, the FBI, the Mueller investigation, they know it. So they know they can not only intimidate you, they can deny you access to your files.
So that's pretty devastating. We know General Flynn, his name's been trashed. He's been pulled through the mud. $5 to $6 million. That's you don't recover. from something like 5 to 6 million, and there's no make good or hey dog, we're sorry. I mean, you don't even. It's 5 to 6 million, and he's still going through this.
Right. We can hear it. The Blue Angels and Thunderbirds overhead right now here in Washington, D.C. We'll be coming back around. Don't worry, producer Dan, you'll get to see them. They'll be coming back around at the top of the next hour. War and Pandemic, meanwhile, will stay with you. Make sure you stay tuned. We'll be back. Jack Maxey, Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam in just a moment.
Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Brits and Europeans are being urged to eat more steak, chips, fries that is, and cheese because of food surplus caused by the closure of restaurants and bars. Welcome back to the last few minutes here on War Room Pandemic. Wanted to bring you in, Jack, because I thought it was strikingly strange, given that obviously we've been talking about meat shortages here in the United States. The Europeans actually encouraging for the use of the surplus out there so that it doesn't go bad or spoil. Belgians now being asked to eat more fries as well at the moment. So just putting all of that into context for us. It just struck me as a particularly strange story coming out of Europe this morning, and there are lots of them as well. As this thing progresses, there's developments all across Europe and Asia. The Turks now easing restrictions on medical exports. Eurostar passengers, for anybody that's done that trip between the United Kingdom and mainland Europe, will be asked to wear masks on their faces on the Eurostar, as well as compulsory usage in Spain as well now. Jack, what else is standing out to you in the last few moments that we have here?
Well, some things that are standing out to me around the country, we've seen these protests of people who want this thing to open up. You saw thousands of people down in Santa Monica. You saw them in Huntington Beach. And now what you're starting to see are several sheriffs around the country who are just saying, hey, in this county, I'm in charge of law enforcement, and I'm not enforcing your laws. Can we get specifics on that? Yes. In Arizona, they are saying that any businesses that open up or do whatever outside of the governor's mandate, they're in danger of 6 months in jail and a $2,500 fine. Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb said he won't enforce the penalties. Lamb said the governor's order seemingly conflicts with the United States Constitution. He's obviously a good oath keeper. Quote, keeping people from going out and working and being able to live their lives like they normally do, Lamb said. I think you can make a clear claim that that's a constitutional violation. This is happening in Arizona, and several Oregon state sheriffs are saying the same thing.
Do you know, a lot of my followers on social media are my fellow countrymen, are Brits, and over the last, let's say, week or so, 10 days, there has obviously been more calls to reopen the economies of Europe as we have squashed the curve, as we are on the descent in terms of people who are contracting this disease and people who are dying of this disease. And the difference in my mind, I've been in the United States on and off now for nearly a decade, or maybe over a decade, and living here, proper for nearly 3 years, I think. And when I first arrived here, you can't really truly appreciate the level of parody and propaganda about things like the Second Amendment in Europe. And I thought, I had that whole thing where I thought, oh, well, the crazy Americans and their guns and all this stuff. It's just in the back of my mind. It's what you're brought up with. But this pandemic especially has brought to my mind that actually when you have unconstitutional things that are taking place, Jack, the recourse that the American public is armed and willing to stand outside courthouses and stand outside their local legislative buildings and things like that, armed, demonstrating. See, that's the difference. I'm going to put this clip out on my digital media profiles to my fellow countrymen. If you think gun ownership is nuts, your government is telling you, hey, you're going to be in lockdown for another couple of months at least. And what are you going to do about it? What recourse is there for government to say, actually, you know what, we better pay attention to these people? And I think it's just another one of those things whereby your Second Amendment is so important. I think we are we're doing this live, by the way, so this may work or it may not work. We've got Greg Manns from the War Room out on the National Mall here in Washington D.C. for the Blue Angels and Thunderbirds flyover. They just passed over once. They're due to pass over again. If we get any live shot, I can see the live shot up there right now. It's just we have the clip. Is it the clip? We have the clip from earlier as they flew over the first time. Do we want to play that? Let's play the clip right now from the flyover just a moment ago, because this is a really great thing that's going on around the country, and I want everybody who hasn't been able to see it in Washington D.C. View this right now. The Blue Angels and Thunderbirds flying over the.
I hope we've got good volume too, people. That's Sound of Freedom.
National Mall. Let's play the clip. Those of you who are following this on podcast or on audio, obviously that won't make a whole lot of sense. But for those watching on YouTube and Facebook Live and all of our video platforms on americasvoice.news and who are watching these clips back, it was really amazing. Great work from Greg Manns there to get the clip of them flying over the Washington Monument.
You're not truly free until your ears start bleeding from the jet engines. Then you know that you're at peak freedom.
Absolutely right. So back to the protests, back to Jack, what and all of this. I just needed to break in there with that because it struck me as so important recently.
The other thing I think your European listeners and your fans should understand, look at how orderly all these things were. And this was true back in the fall when we had, 50,000 people show up in downtown Richmond to oppose the governor's attempt to take their arms. And you saw the same thing in Michigan. No shots were fired. These are serious people. These are Americans. They are exercising their rights to peaceably assemble and also to keep and bear arms. This is the great check against totalitarianism that our brilliant founding fathers put in there. And there's a reason why free speech and freedom of religion were number one and the right to bear arms was number two. They are both hand in hand.
Jason.
And boy, I tell you, the images people are seeing, you probably saw some of the news clips on TV last night, but the thousands of protesters right there in Huntington Beach. I used to live right there at the corner of Main and PCH in the Pier Colony condos. And I can tell you, I mean, the beaches are closed off. I mean, this is central to life in places like Huntington Beach, Newport Beach is anything. I mean, this is right there, right in downtown HB. There are thousands of people out there saying, open the beaches, let's go. And look, we had Daryl Ice on yesterday saying, why are they closed down in Orange County, but they're open in San Diego County or further up in the Central Coast? So Gavin Newsom getting a lot of pushback, but Americans are ready to get back to work, ready to get back to the beach, ready to get back to their freedom.
Okay, Producer Dan, I don't believe we have a show Sunday this week, but we'll be back Monday. More War Room Pandemic with the team, Jack Maxey, Jason Miller, Producer Dan, Producer Vish, Stephen K. Bannon, Greg Manns, and me, Raheem Kassam. In the meantime, pandemic.warroom.org.